And now she's 80 years old. And before I left and came here, I had to say bye to my grandmother because I knew it's the last time I'm going to see her because her medical insurance company no longer wants to pay for home health care. And they told her to go to a nursing home. And the last time she was in a nursing home, they gave her 2 weeks to live. And she lived a year later after getting home health care. But her private health insurance company no longer wants to pay. And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to come here. I said I would stay here and I will take care of you. And I'll work, I'll be your home health aide, I'll do whatever necessary because I don't want you to die. And about a week ago, I got a call from my mother that they no longer can afford her home health aide, and she's gonna have to go to that nursing home, the same one that didn't take adequate care of her because they can't afford to pay what the private health insurance company doesn't. And this house that she spent her whole life to work for, she can't die in, and she has to die somewhere that's unknown to her, and hope that her family can continue her legacy. And I had a choice. I had a choice to sit back and hope that the powers that be will elect someone that will make sure that my grandmother's not your grandmother, to make sure that all of you here can die in peace compared to pain. And I decided to take action, and I decided to join the Bernie Sanders campaign. I decided that I'm gonna knock doors, I'm gonna make calls to people, I'm gonna talk to the people necessary to make sure we get this person elected. But I can't do it alone. None of us can do it alone. Like Bernie says, it has to be every last single one of us, because we never know when you can get diagnosed with a disease. You never know when it can be your mother, your grandmother, your child, your daughter, your sister, that your siblings have to work 2 or 3 jobs to help put them through the health care that they need. So I'm asking you all to take action. This weekend, we are gonna knock every single door in Waterloo. We're gonna talk to every single voter. We're gonna talk about why Medicare for all is important. We're gonna talk about why Bernie is the only candidate that truly stands in Medicare for all, the only candidate that has not backed away from the plan that is going to work. So with that being said, on every single one of your tables, there is a sheet. And I am asking every single person in here to sign up this weekend, because we cannot do it just by coming to events. We have to knock on the doors, and we have to talk to those voters, and we have to persuade them. Thank y'all very much.
What are you changing? Who do you think you're changing? You can't change things, we're all stuck in our ways. It's like trying to clean the ocean. What do you think you can drain it? Well, it was poison and dry long before you came.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Waterloo City Council member Jerome Amos.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. That's what I want to hear. For those of you that don't know me, I am the Waterloo 4th Ward City Council member, soon to be re-elected. I do not have an opponent this time around, so I will have another 4 years to serve my community. For those of you that know me, you know that you're not going to see a piece of paper up here with me with a prepared speech or anything. The things that you hear from me come from the heart. And that's not Mayor Hart, that's Jerome Amos's heart. but what I wanted to talk with everyone about before we hear from Bernie Sanders is I want everyone to think about this. Think about the future of our young people. Because when I see this forum, and it's for senior citizens and those things, but when I see that, for me, the reason that I do the things that I do is not for Jerome Amos. You know, people say, well, the future. Well, just so you know, I feel like I'm living my future right now. This is my future. But we have a future that we have to look at from a standpoint of the young people in our community. That is so key, that is so important from a standpoint of listening to those young people, listening to the things that they want. I have my ideas as far as politics go, but I also know that I don't think a lot of the young people think. So for me, it's one of those things that I want everyone in this room to remember. This November 5th, get out and vote. Yes, myself, I don't have an opponent. The mayor doesn't have an opponent. But we do have individuals in this community who are running for office that actually can and will help us make a difference in this community. And for me, once again, I myself, and I don't know if everyone in this room has made up their mind who they're going to vote for. We have a lot of good individuals running for office, but one of the things that I want everyone in this room to relate to is there's going to come a point in time where your candidate, whoever it is, may not get there. And if they don't drop the ball. Don't let things get to the point to where you're not participating, to where you're not a part of the process, because it is a process. And I hope everyone is listening and understanding what I'm saying. If not, get with me afterwards and we can have a conversation then also. Having said that, they told me I had 2 or 3 minutes. I don't feel I need that long. I'm trying to give Reverend Marvin Jenkins an opportunity to eat some food here before we get going. But anyway, I'm looking out in this room. I see a community that is diverse. I see a community that I know when the time comes, we will all come together. So having said that, I would like to bring Reverend Jenkins up so that he can have some remarks to say, but enjoy the food, welcome, and once again, remember, this is our Waterloo.
First, let me say good afternoon, and let me say welcome to the Union Missionary Baptist Church. We are so honored to host this event on today and to try to make you comfortable as you your time that you'll be spending here today to hear Senator Sanders. We're humbled not only to host this, but also I'm humbled to be the humble pastor of this congregation. Would you give the congregation of Union a hand for me, please? The reason I asked you to do that, I'm trying to be the pastor next week too, and that might help me to make it another week. Amen. We are proud to be here in this community. We are a community-minded congregation. We do what we can to make our community a better place. If we as a church family have no effect on this community, we're just another building. We're just taking up space. But can I say this to you? It is all of our duty to try to make a positive difference in the world today. Okay, now let me help y'all. Being they put this at a church, and they gave me the mic. When I say something, if y'all don't say amen, I'm going to keep on talking. So I'm going to say this one more time. It is all of our duties to try to make a difference. Amen. When all of us pitch in, this world becomes a better place. And so here we are, we're faced with our presidential election. We've got more candidates on the field this time than ever I've ever seen before. And so what does that say? Well, that means that we need to be sharp in the decisions that we make. We need some discerning from on high. Because as far as I'm concerned, I guess I shouldn't really be talking like this, but with the last election, it didn't look like there was no discerning. That's a good time to say amen. Y'all missed it. But I pray there is some discerning today. Discerning means that you have a true understanding or a good understanding of who you're placing in office. And that the general public, which is us, the citizens of this country, don't fall for the okie doke. That's another good place to say amen. So, today as the senator comes and he will share with you, it will be left in your hands to receive what he says, determine what he says, whether it will be beneficial for us as a country, as a whole. And so, just a little bit to bring you up to speed on who he is. He is a junior senator from Vermont. And as you well know, he has run for the candidacy president of these United States. I think that should get a little round of applause, don't you? They say if you check the record, you will find that his time in politics has not been based on greed or trying to service certain parties, but his press has been that he would serve the community and God's people at large to bring about the best circumstances that he could bring about. A few things that we see that he's highlighted in his career, whether some want to face it or not, we're in the midst of a dire climate change. And we are having a great effect upon it. You know, as a Christian, and I'm going to try not to give you a sermon, but I do know that this world's going to come to an end. But I'd appreciate y'all didn't rush it. I do know the seasons are going to change, but we don't have to feed into it and bring things, these catastrophes, the way the weather is going right now. We don't have to escalate it. But when we think about our greed, when we just get caught up on greed, we put all that to the side and we go ahead and try and do whatever benefits us. Well, somebody say, we don't want to talk about that. I do. So he is taking a stance on climate change. He's also taken a stance on health care. And health care is truly a serious issue. I don't even think I need to elaborate on that any further, because I believe probably most of you, or some of you in the room, have faced the problems that come when you end up in a hospital without proper health care. Insurance companies are not campaigning for you. They're campaigning for profit. I happen to know this firsthand. I spent 15 years in that industry, and we were about making a dollar. He's also taken a stance on protecting the rights of women in our country. It's unbelievable that in a time like this, in this day and period of the country that we still find that there's such blatant discrimination when it comes to women in the workplace and getting a fair wage and getting fair rights. Discrimination exists in a whole lot of ways, but it's sad when it also, discrimination comes directed toward the female. That should not be a penalty. Senator Sanders has stood firm to try to bring that change about. He's petitioned for justice in all the courts. Everyone would get an equal chance, a just chance. And when we go into our judicial systems, he's taken a firm stance on that. And one of the last things I'm going to say, so I don't bore you, I'll let him tell you the rest. He has also taken on the stance of bringing our minimum wage up to $15 an hour. So as I go to my seat, let me just say this about all the things that I named. They are not popular conversations at the White House. They're not popular conversations in Congress because some of these conversations takes money out of big corporate, takes money out of their pockets, and they are yet still for them and not for you. So when a politician stands on these issues, he is up, somebody said 40 years? 40 years he's been campaigning. Boy, that's older than that's longer than I've been around. For 40 years, he has been campaigning and standing. So that's made him unpopular with a lot of folk. But nevertheless, I'm from the old school. Old school say, either you stand for something or you fall for everything. And I'm glad to hear that he has stood for something and refused to compromise on those things he stood for. So, is the senator in the House? It is my honor today to present to you that have came to be with us the senator from Vermont, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Well, let me thank Pastor Jenkins. Let me thank Pastor Jenkins for allowing us to use this beautiful church. And before I go any further, let me introduce the next First Lady of the United States of America, Jane Sanders. So I thank Pastor Jenkins for his remarks, except he gave my whole speech, didn't leave me much to say. And I want to thank Councilperson Jerome Amos for his strong support and for the great work that he does here in Waterloo. You know, sometimes I turn on the TV and I hear that the economy is doing just great. Everybody is doing wonderfully. But I go around the country, go around Iowa, go around my own state of Vermont, and I find that is not necessarily the case. So I have a very radical idea. You want to hear a radical idea? All right. Maybe we should have an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Maybe we should have a political system which makes it easier and encourages people to vote rather than a system that tries to suppress the vote. Maybe we should have a democracy based on one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. So that's kind of what our campaign is about. The pastor mentioned health care. Okay, I want to say a few words on health care. I have believed for my whole adult life, that's a long life, although I want you to remember he introduced me as the junior senator from Vermont. I don't want to tell you how old the senior senator is, but. And we have got to take a hard look at our current cruel and dysfunctional healthcare system. Got to know where we are, and we got to know where we want to go. In my view, if somebody gets sick, they should be able to go to the doctor when they need to, not worry about the cost of that care. In my view, if somebody has a serious illness, ends up in the hospital for a month, they should be able to come out of that hospital and not worry about going bankrupt or seeing their credit score shot. Now, you're going to see a lot on television about the proposal I introduced in the Congress called Medicare for All. And let me tell you what it is. Because you're going to see a lot of 30-second ads attacking Medicare for All. And I want you to know who's paying for those ads. And the people who are paying for those ads are the insurance companies and the drug companies who made $100 billion in profit last year. They think this system is great. But I talk to ordinary people, they don't think the system is so good. Because in America today, there are 87 million people who have no health insurance or are underinsured with high deductibles and high copayments. There are working families that are paying 20-25% of their limited incomes for health insurance, and those health insurance policies are often not really important to them when they get sick and they need them. They're inadequate. So this is what I want to do, and I want you to know what I'm talking about is not a radical idea. It exists in countries all over the world. The program that I am fighting for says we're going to do away with all health care premiums. Got it? You're not going to pay $500 a month or $1,000 a month. When you go to the doctor, you're not going to have any co-payments. Gone. There are no more deductibles. Got that? There are no more out-of-pocket expenses. How's that? And instead of paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, we're going to cap on the Medicare for All what anyone in America has to pay at $200 a year for prescription drugs. We are going, right now, Medicare is for people 65 or older. It's a good program. We're going to make it better. We're going to include coverage for dental care. for hearing aids, for eyeglasses, for home health care. And because we are getting rid of the profiteering and the corruption in the healthcare industry, the drug companies and the insurance companies will be able to provide all of that to people at a fraction of the cost they are paying right now. Not here to tell you it's going to be free. You're going to have to pay something, but it's going to be a heck of a lot less than what you're currently paying. For example, just give you an example. We exempt in our proposal the first $29,000 in income. So if you're making $29,000 or less, you're not going to pay a nickel more in taxes. If you're making $60,000, you're going to be taxed on $31,000 at 4%. It's about $1,200 a year. How's that? $1,200 a year for comprehensive. That's if you're making $60,000. It's less, obviously, if you're making less money. All right? Bottom line is healthcare is a human right. The struggle we are engaged in right now is not about the merits of this current healthcare system, because it is very difficult for anyone to defend the current system. How do you defend a system when so many people are uninsured or underinsured, when we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, when 30,000 people a year die because they don't get to a doctor when they should because they're uninsured? And here's something else that's amazing. If you're a working class person, you get diagnosed with cancer, you end up in the hospital, you run up a huge bill. How do you pay that bill? You tell me. Raise your hand. Who knows how you pay that bill? Yeah, but what happens if your insurance doesn't cover it? And what happens here? How many people got $100,000 out of their pockets? All right. You go bankrupt. All right. 500,000 Americans go bankrupt every single year. Others are being hounded by bill collectors, and their credit scores deteriorate. We're going to put an end to all of that. That's what healthcare is supposed to be about in a democratic, civilized society. But I want you all to remember that when you turn on the TV and you see these terrible ads about how awful Medicare for all is, how bad Bernie Sanders is, understand who is paying for those ads. People who are paying for those ads are the drug companies and the insurance companies, and they understand, as the pastor indicated, that we, in fact, are not going to let them continue to profit off of the sicknesses and injuries of the American people. All right? We're going to put an end to that. Pastor mentioned that we want to do away with starvation wages in America. 4 years ago when I came to Iowa, and I campaigned, and I thank many of you for the support you gave me, we said that nobody in America who works 40 hours a week should live in poverty. We got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Now, 4 years ago, everybody told me I was crazy. Well, they still tell me I'm crazy, but since then, 7 states and the U.S. House of Representatives have raised that minimum wage to $15 an hour. Women in America should not be earning 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. And minority women, women of color, earning a lot less. How about getting the whole damn dollar? And we have a proposal that will make it a lot easier for workers to join unions so they can engage in collective bargaining and get better wages and benefits. And here is another idea that I think is enormously important. I want every kid in this country, and please never forget we are the richest country in the history of the world. I want every kid in America to get a quality education from preschool to graduate school. That is why we are going to have universal, high-quality, affordable child care. That is why we're going to pump billions of dollars into public education, especially low-income school districts. We're going to triple funding for Title I funded school districts. And we're going to substantially raise salaries for our teachers. And that is why we're going to make public colleges and universities and trade schools and HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, tuition free. Is it, I want you to think about it, is it a radical idea to say that these kids over here, beautiful kids, we've got a number of children here, that these kids have the right to get all of the education their dreams are looking forward to? I don't think that's a radical idea. You want to go to nursing school? You want to go to medical school? You want to be a lawyer? You want to be an architect? You have the right to fulfill those dreams without worrying about the income of your family. That right is available to all. And in addition, we're going to cancel all student debt in this country. Too many of our people are struggling with outrageous levels of student debt, month after month, year after year. If the Congress could bail out the crooks on Wall Street 11 years ago, we surely can bail out the people who are struggling with student debt today. Pastor mentioned one of the important global issues that we face. Donald Trump is deadly wrong. Climate change is not a hoax. Climate change is an enormous threat to our country and around the world. I don't have to tell you that because you already know it. You turn on the TV, you're seeing today the great state of California on fire. You're seeing the Bahamas a few months ago destroyed. We saw what happened in Puerto Rico. We saw the drought in Australia, the heat wave in India and Pakistan. All over the world, climate change is posing an enormous threat. We have, and I say this more than aware that I am in a church of God, we have an enormous moral responsibility to make sure that the planet we leave to these beautiful kids is a planet that is healthy and is habitable. And yes, we will take on the fossil fuel industry and tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. I want to say a word about another issue that is on the minds of many people in this room and all over the country. And that is, let's be honest about it, we have a broken and racist criminal justice system. And I want you to think about it. I want you to think about it just for a moment. We in America have more people in jail today, right now, than any other country on earth. China, 4 times our size, has fewer people in jail than we do. Okay? Why is that? For a start, we got 400,000 people in jail today, this moment. They are in jail for the crime of being poor. What do I mean by that? What I mean is they get arrested. Somebody says, hey, you're guilty of something. We're arresting you. They don't have the money to post bail. This is the year 2019. We have 400,000 people in jail because they can't post a $500, get $500 to post bail. That's a debtor's prison. We should not be putting people in jail before they're convicted of anything. All right. We're going to end private prisons and detention centers in this country. Corporations should not be making money imprisoning fellow Americans. We are going to invest in our young people, in jobs and education, not build more jails and have more incarceration. And I will tell you something else. Some of you may agree with me. Some of you don't. We got to end the war on drugs. Over a period of years, millions of people have been arrested, have gotten criminal records for possession of marijuana. And when you got a criminal record, it's hard for you to go out and get a job, hard for you to go out and get a home, hard for you to go out and live a normal life. So we're going to do a couple of things. I know not everybody may agree with me, but I think the time is long overdue to legalize possession of marijuana in America. And to expunge the records of those people who have been arrested. And I'll tell you something else we're going to do. If you go to states right now where marijuana is legal, like Nevada, you see these big billboards, and they say, buy marijuana, this corporation is selling. It's like tobacco, it's like whiskey. They will, large corporations sell the product. Now, I happen to think that it would be a bad idea if we legalize marijuana and let a handful of corporations control that industry. I think that we should do our best to see that those communities that have suffered the most under this war on drugs get a piece of the action when we legalize marijuana. So we are going to provide grants to African American and Latino small businesses to help them make a profit when we legalize marijuana, not just a handful of large corporations. And I also want to say that I know there is great concern in Iowa, Vermont, all over this country on the issue of gun violence. Am I right? We are all sick and tired, sick to our stomachs, seeing these horrible, horrible mass murders. And maybe even worse, if you can say that, all over this country, in my own state, my grandkids go under drills, to protect themselves. The teachers help them if, God forbid, something happens in a school. Can you imagine millions of kids and parents scared to death about sending their kids off to school? Kids should be learning in school. They should be socializing. They should be having a good time. They should not worry about some lunatic marching in to that school and doing something terrible. So I promise you that this president will not be intimidated by the NRA. We are going to do everything we possibly can to end gun violence in this country. Now, I want to just say a general word about what's going on economically and politically. Today, we have, sad to say, a handful of billionaires who control the economic life and the political life of this country. Today, if you can believe it, we have 3 people who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. 3 people. Meanwhile, tonight, 500,000 people are sleeping out on the streets of America. So what our campaign is about is changing the priorities of the federal government. We're not going to give tax breaks to billionaires. We're not going to continue to spend endless amounts of money on endless wars. We're not going to spend 10 times more for the military than the next 10 countries combined. We're not going to give massive tax breaks and subsidies to Wall Street and to the fossil fuel industry. We're going to invest in the children, the senior citizens, the working families of this country. That's going to be our priorities. And I'll tell you something else we're going to do. Of all of the ugly things that Trump does, and they are ugly, ugly, and ugly, the worst thing that he does is trying to divide our people up based on the color of their skin, based on where they were born, based on their religion, based on their sexual orientation. All right, as president, I will do exactly the opposite. Our job is to bring our people together under the principles of justice, under the principles of love and compassion, not hatred and greed. Now, Donald Trump and his friends want you to believe that you are powerless, that there's nothing you could do, that we can never bring about real change. But everybody here who knows the history of America understands that real change has never taken place from the top on down, always from the bottom on up. That is the history of the labor movement, workers standing up for their rights. That is the history of the civil rights movement. I was there. I know I date myself a little bit. I was there when Martin Luther King Jr. in Washington, D.C. talked about his dreams for the future. I was there for that march for jobs and freedom, way back when. And what you all know, it wasn't just the great Dr. King. It was millions of people, African Americans and their white allies, standing up against racism. That's how change takes place. 100 years ago, women did not have the right to vote in America. Change took place because women stood up and fought back. That's the history of the gay rights struggle. That is the history of the environmental movement. So what I'm asking you this morning is, obviously I'm here to ask for your support in the very, very important caucus, which will take place in Iowa. Enormously important. I think we're in a position to win it. With your help, I'm confident that we will. I'm asking for your support to make me the Democratic nominee and to help me defeat the most dangerous president in American history. And with your support, we'll do that. But I am also here today to ask for your help the day after we are inaugurated. Because we need to come together by the millions in an unprecedented way to tell Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex and all of the billionaires in America that they are not America. We are America. So I'm asking for your help today to help me defeat Trump, but let us go forward and transform this country so that we have a government and economy that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. Thank you all so much.